love gijinkas. That's the art of turning non-human things into human character designs for those out of the loop. I also love Pokemon, but we know this. After all, my last gijinka video was also Pokemon related. Pokopia kinda drop-kicked me back into the fandom, what can I say? I've been itching to design some more Pokemon gijinkas for a bit, and I figured what better set of Pokemon to tackle than EEVEE and all its evolutions. They've got a fun range of colors and concepts, but would still tie together to make a nice set. But I wanted some kind of common theme to keep all their designs unified, and was really struggling with figuring out what I wanted to do, until I remembered that I'm a freaking nerd. So we're turning EEVEE and all 8 of its evolutions into D&D characters, each with their own class. Also, they're all girls because it's my video and I do what I want. But figuring out exactly how I was going to tackle this project and keep all my inspiration organized was a real challenge that was made all that much easier with today's sponsor, Milanote. Cards on the table here, gang. I had already been using Milanote for this project well before they reached out to do a sponsorship, because I genuinely use it all the time. It's the main thing I use to organize all my projects, be it illustrations, character designs, new merch ideas, etc. And it made organizing references and ideas for all 9 of my evolution gijinkas super easy. With Milanote, you can start with one of their pre-designed templates, but personally, I'm all about freestyling and starting from scratch to set things up exactly how I want. For this project, I made a board with a list of all the classes I wanted to use and a to-do list to track my progress, then made 9 more subboards inside it, one for each evolution. Inside each subboard, I gathered references of other evolution gijinkas, styles of clothing I liked, and other examples of character designs for each class I'd be working with. Milanote makes it really easy to snag references from around the internet, organize them exactly the way I want, put captions on them to make things easier to remember, add color swatches I'd like to use, circle or highlight specific parts of my references that I really liked, and overall just helped keep my ADHD head on straight during the whole design process. If you're doing a project with multiple people, Milanote also works perfectly as a collaboration tool, as boards can be shared with others and edited together in real time. You can also use handy tools like their Web Clipper browser extension to add just about anything to your boards with the click of a button, and edit them on the go from their mobile app that syncs across all versions. Also, you know Azure Mirage, the novel I've been working on for the last year or so? Well, I've actually been using Milanote for the outline. I had to blur everything out here because, spoilers, but I've been loving the ability to make separate notes for each scene, organize all my scenes into columns for each chapter, color code them to track specific plot lines or recurring characters, drag and drop them if I decide to move elements around, and really easily grab inspiration photos. And Milanote's ability to keep all of that organized in one place has been an absolute lifesaver. Milanote is available for free with no time limit, so check the link in my description to try it for yourself. Alright, with all that said, let's jump into our gijinkas. We're designing evolutions, so obviously we gotta start with EEVEE herself. While all of EEVEE's evolutions would be getting their own D&D class, I figured it might be fun to make EEVEE's unevolved form a commoner. This isn't technically a D&D class, but I liked playing with the idea that she's a little kid who dreams of adventure, but hasn't quite figured out what type of adventure she wants to grow up to be. She's still just a little baby, she's got time to figure it out. I kept her design on the simple side. I wanted something that would resemble a fantasy villager with no armor, but I did give her a toy sword and shield to show she hasn't quite graduated to the real thing yet. I went for a more cutesy take on a villager outfit for her, giving her a poofy skirt and ribbons to make it extra girly, made them all shades of beige and brown to match EEVEE's color scheme. I also gave her a little bit of fluff around the collar and boots, and a petticoat that mimics the shape of the fluff, even if it actually isn't supposed to be fur, because we love stylization here. Now, a couple things I want to mention at the start. Number 1, even though these designs are supposed to be humanized versions of the evolutions, I did keep their ears and tails. My goal with these was not just to design gijinkas of the Pokemon, but to also make merch out of them. I wanted these to be really easily recognizable as evolutions, even if only got a quick glance at the designs at my artist alley table, and the ears and tails of the evolutions are so iconic that I felt like it made sense to keep them. This is also why I'm doing chibi versions of the designs instead of full character art. I'm making these little suckers into stickers, and you can't stop me because I already did it. They are already in my store, link is in the description. Lastly, you may have noticed already, but unfortunately, because of a Procreate glitch, I don't have the sketch time lapses. Pour one out for my sketches, lads. The program glitched and I lost all the footage. You may leave your commiseration in the comments. There will be no sketches in this video. I apologize. Anyway, on a brighter note, here's our littlest EEVEE. She is ready for adventure. We're going in Pokedex order for these, so next up is Vaporeon. Vaporeon is a water type. Water is really flowy and elegant, and a character with water abilities made me immediately think of a mage. There's a few different magic classes in D&D I could have chosen from, but for Vaporeon, I specifically went with a wizard. Mostly because I wanted to give her a big hat with the fin patterns on the brim. You can't be a wizard without some big flowy robes, so I gave her a big cape and a dress with big sleeves. The scalloped trim on the edge of the hat and sleeves is supposed to resemble fish fins like Vaporeon has, but I made them a light blue to match its neck fin specifically. I wanted to use the yellow accents a bit more sparingly. Her hair is styled into a big braid that looks like Vaporeon's fishtail, and the pointed hat has the same general shape as Vaporeon's big head fin. For the original 3 evolutions, they all evolved by using their specific elemental stones, so I decided to incorporate those into each of the 3 Kanto evolutions. Vaporeon specifically is using a water stone as the clasp for her cape, which is a small detail, but one I really enjoyed adding. Lastly, no wizard is complete without her spellbook, just be careful not to get the pages wet. Anyway, here's our wizard Vaporeon. Next up is the electric evolution Jolteon. I knew right away that I had to really nail this one because if you didn't know, Jolteon is actually my favorite evolution and one of my favorite Pokemon. My sweet baby is underappreciated, but I love her. As for her class, Jolteon's electric abilities immediately made me think of a monk. Monks in D&D are generally pretty dexterous, they hit hard and fast, which is similar to most electric Pokemon, and a lot of monk abilities cause paralysis or have names that are similar to electric-type moves, like Stunning Strike, for example. So making our Jolteon a monk was a no-brainer. Starting from the top, I gave her short, spiky hair to mimic Jolteon's spiky fur and ears, plus a ripped-up waist cape to mimic its, lack of tail. I also gave her a torn scarf as a callback to Jolteon's spiky neck ruff, but I did make it yellow instead of white to tie in with the rest of the outfit better, using the white for her arm wraps and pants instead. Arm bandages, loose flowy pants, and a shirt that shows off her muscles are all standard monk character design, but I did go back and forth on whether the pants should be black or white. I gave both versions to my Patreon members, and while black pants did get several votes, I ended up sticking with white, and I think it helps bring more attention to the places where the dark purple is used, like her eyes and ears. Lastly, I added the Thunderstone pinned to their scarf, just like Vaporeon's, added it all together, and here's our monk Jolteon ready to kick some butt. The last of the Kanto trio is Flareon, and fun fact, this design was actually the first one I finished. There were several directions I could have gone in here. For example, Flareon is a fire type, and Fireball is one of the most well-known spells in D&D, so making her a caster of some kind would have been a really easy choice. However, I ended up going with a barbarian instead. Firstly, I don't know about y'all, but whenever I imagine a barbarian, I always think of a big buff fighter with animal pelts used as fur accents. And secondly, this party desperately needed a tank. All that in mind, I decided to turn Flareon into a buff and fluffy barbarian. I gave her floofy, choppy hair with a ponytail that looks like Flareon's tail. I made a section of her bangs lighter to mimic the whipped cream dollop of fluff on its head. I don't know what that is, but it's cute. While I knew I wanted a lot of fur accents, the rest of this outfit was actually a little bit tricky. I whipped together some basic barbarian-style clothes, lots of leather, ripped fabric, and fur, but the colors were where I really struggled. Flareon's eyes and the insides of their ears are kind of a dark blue color, but when I applied that to the clothes, it clashed a bit too much for my liking. I waffled for a while until settling on something a bit more desaturated and purple to unify the color scheme more with the browns I was using for their leather accessories. Lastly, she got a big ol' flaming hammer for a weapon and a firestone neck clasp to match to the other two, so here's Barbarian Flareon. With our Kanto trio completed, let's head on to the next batch. First up for the Johto duo is Espeon. Being a psychic type, Espeon was obviously going to be a magic user, but just like with Vaporeon, I had to decide exactly what kind. Wizard was out, and I wasn't really getting Warlock vibes, but Espeon's psychic abilities almost immediately made me think of the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, a subclass that specifically deals in psychic magic. With that decided, all I had to do was design the character. I turned Espeon's forehead gem into a hair accessory and continued the visual motif in both their big magic staff and some accent jewels on their outfit. The red circle with gold accents kind of works as sun imagery, which tracks with how Espeon evolves in the sunlight. I gave her blunt-cut bangs and long hair to give the vibes of an uppity magical prodigy, and to sort of mimic Espeon's tail shape. Plus, I also turned Espeon's funny little whisker things into the fluffy little hair pieces framing her face. Her clothes are supposed to be very clean and mystical, with lots of flowy bits and a big white cape for maximum drama when slinging spells around. Overall, this one came together pretty quickly, though I did struggle with the colors quite a bit. All that said, here's Sorcerer Espeon. Now it's time for the second half of the Johto duo, so let's talk about Umbreon. Out of all these designs, Umbreon's class came to me almost immediately. Dark type, all black, the edgiest of all the EVs, of course they're a rogue. It's time for sneaking and stabbing. This one was pretty straightforward design-wise. I gave her a hooded cape with holes for the ears and the gold circle mark on the forehead. I also put some little stitching details under the ears to add a little bit more visual interest and to make the hood look less clean. Most of her hair is tucked into the hood, but she has little hair strands framing her face with gold hair ties to mimic the shape of Umbreon's ears. I also gave the cape a red lining to help make the rest of the body stand out and bring more of the red from Umbreon's eyes into other parts of the design. The rest of the clothes are pretty stereotypical rogue fit. Close-fitting tunic, gloves, and boots, all in various shades of black. Keeping the clothes all relatively the same color to keep them looking rogue-ish, while also making sure there was enough contrast to make them visually interesting was really tricky, but I think I got there in the end. My one break from the form-fitting clothing was giving them slightly puffier pants so that I could stick Umbreon's leg designs on the side. Lastly, I gave them a moon clasp on their hood and curved blades for stabbing, and voila, we've got our roguish Umbreon. Next up on our list is Leafeon, and this is actually one I struggled with quite a bit. My original thought was to make her a druid, because grass type, nature, it made sense. But I also wanted each of my EVs to have their own unique weapon. I generally don't think weapons when I think of druids though, aside from maybe a staff, but Espeon already had a staff, and I didn't want any duplicates, so I gave her a bow instead. But then everyone I showed the design to thought she was a ranger, so you know what? It doesn't matter. She can be a druid, she can be a ranger, she can be whichever you want her to be. The point is that she's cute. Aesthetically, I was angling more for druid though. Gave her a cute cottagecore-esque dress with a mini cape and some bracers, going for something cute and girly but that had some adventurer's touches, all in various tones of green and brown to match both Leafeon and that classic nature aesthetic. This would be kinda hard to fight in, but she's a lover, not a fighter, it's fine. She just wants to hang out in the woods with her plant and animal friends, don't even worry about it. I gave her a green hair swoop to mimic Leafeon's swirly thing, plus brown boots and wrist guards to emulate the brown paws. I also put a slight green gradient in her hair, like how Leafeon has a gradient to green on their ears and tail. Overall, this is the one I struggled with the most, but I still think she turned out really cute. So here's our druid, or ranger Leafeon. Is she a druid or a ranger? Vote now on your phones. For our penultimate design, it's time for Glaceon. While I struggled a lot figuring out the class for Leafeon, Glaceon gave me no such trouble. The bangs that look like a helmet, the sleek body shape, the elegant and geometric patterns, you know that Glaceon is a knight. A paladin specifically. Besides, your girl here is a known paladin enjoyer. Between my baby girl Verity, my tiny princess Vesper, and my new girlies Pyrrha and Leith, more on them in a future video, paladins have managed to become my favorite class. I just think they're neat. For this design, I went for a very prim and proper, well put together but still feminine knight look. The straight across bangs combined with the visor helmet are very much inspired by my girl Forte from Rune Factory 4, and are meant to mimic the bang things that Glaceon has. She also has a ponytail to emulate the shape of the tendrils, whatever those things are. I also included them in the armor itself. I like to think they're like ribbons or accessories on the helmet or something. For a paladin, very shiny silver armor was a must. I gave her some shiny plate armor up top, which is very polished to maintain that elegant holy knight feel. And she has a pleated skirt for her lower half, because you can't fight monsters if you aren't cute. I know it's impractical, but shut up. I gave her a rapier for her weapon to keep going with the elegant knightly vibes, and lastly, a big swooshy cape for drama. I went with a cool toned color scheme for the entire design, including the armor, and I think the whole thing came together really nicely. All that said, here's Icy Paladin Glaceon. It's time for our final design of the video. You can't do a D&D crossover without a bard, and who better to fill that role than Sylveon? I can imagine her being a glamour bard, just like my girly Felix. Out of all these designs, I think Sylveon's came together the fastest. I wanted to go very high femme with this one while still keeping the fantasy stylings. She's got a short, cute skirt with heart accessories, but also a big fancy cape with scallops like Sylveon's bows. Speaking of bows, she's got a bow in her hair and around her neck, just like the Pokemon, and I used the pink and blue color scheme throughout. I made the underside of the cape blue to add some pop, contrast how much pink is in the rest of the outfit, and to highlight the fluffy silhouette of the skirt. And of course, every bard needs an instrument, so I gave her a little gold harp because it's the most elegant and fancy instrument in my opinion. What can I say, Skyward Sword Zelda still has a chokehold on me a decade later. Lastly, in case you haven't noticed yet, I've been playing around with colored line art with these. Lately, I've been wanting to find a happy medium between the thick, bold line art I love so much, and making my art a little brighter, softer on the eyes, and more colorful and vibrant by adding some color variances. I kept most of the line art the same darker color. For Sylveon's case, it's this dark pink, but I adjusted the colors on things like the lines in the hair or the clothing folds to make them lighter and a little bit more subtle. It's something I'm still experimenting with, but right now it's sparking a lot of joy, and having fun with your art is always important. Anyway, here she is, our lovely bard Sylveon. So there's all 9 D&D themed evolutions, the D&DVs as I've been calling them. I had a ton of fun designing all of these, and I hope y'all enjoyed seeing the process. Let me know if you'd like to see more gijinkas like this in the future. I think it'd be super fun to do all the starters, or maybe a set focused on all the Pikachu clones. Let me know your thoughts down below. Before we wrap up for the day though, it's time for Star's Webcomic Corner, the part of the video where I talk about some of my favorite webcomics, boost my fellow creators, and give you guys something new and fun to read. So, let's get into it. Demifloras are special. Humans with supernatural abilities, each type has its own power. Lilies have mind control, roses can manipulate time, lotuses can control water, and irises can turn art into reality. However, Demiflora abilities are highly sought after, and every day more and more are killed, their body parts sold for a pretty penny on the black market. Their beacon of hope? An isolated tower, a sanctum where Demiflora can live safely, protected from the dangers of the outside world and the people who would wish them harm. Iris has been living in the tower his entire life, under the watchful eye of his mother, the tower's leader, who says that as long as he follows the rules and doesn't use his powers, no harm will come to him. But after growing up in a home that rejects him and his abilities, he longs to use his powers to help people, and find a place where he really fits in. However, his worldview is shattered when a thief breaks into the tower one night, and Iris decides to make an escape from both his sheltered life and his tyrannical mother. But in a world where his art can become reality, full of people who would use those abilities for their own ends, what sort of life will he make for himself? Countdown to Countdown is a comic I've been following for a long time. The art is absolutely stunning, and every single page of the comic is a treat for the eyes. But the writing is stellar as well. The characters are all layered and driven, the story keeps you on the edge of your seat, and the world building is fascinating. Learning about all the different types of Demifloras and slowly uncovering the world's history and how it affects the modern day is such a treat, and I'm not usually a world building guy, so if I'm saying that, you know it's good. If you'd like to check out the comic for yourself, you can read the entire thing for free on the website. Link is on screen and down in the description, so go check it out. Alright, and that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. If you like these designs, I have them available on my store as both individual stickers and a sticker sheet with all 9. Link for that is down in the description. Also, quick reminder that I have a convention coming up. For all my Texas pals, come see me at San Japan and San Antonio on Labor Day weekend. I'll be selling all my lovely wares and would love to say hi to y'all in person. A huge thank you as always to my lovely patrons for making these videos possible, and a special thanks to my video shout-out to your patrons: Holly, Mr. Don Matsu, Alyssa Herzog, Neon Valkyrie, Sammy Cat, Smith Nerd, and Leilani. Anyway, that'll be it for me. Fare thee well, friends, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!